Yeah, and that Tangerine. I can't say funny things anymore because we used to have
Tangerine.
we used to have conversations before Tangerine started, and then I would
Well,
just randomly start
I
recording. But now I was like, Teddy, we need to have timestamps
yeah.
for the video
We
because
had a
we.
discussion just before press record. We had a discussion about timestamps, and I got teased with something something. I got something for Rocket League. I don't know what that means.
I didn't get it for Rocket League, but it makes you
Well,
a better Rocket League
that's the
player.
tease we was
It
given.
makes you a
So
better
yeah.
Rocket League player for sure. It's all in the thing. It's all in the
Right.
thing. Whoops.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, Tangerine off that, Tony. Bioshock. So Bioshock is actually a replay for me. I don't do a lot of. I've realised I don't actually do a lot of replay of games because
No,
given
you got more games to play. And you got what you want to
yeah,
finish,
so
right?
when I'm given the opportunity, I'll usually choose the unknown, like
Yeah.
the opportunity to play something new and find something I really love to add to my collection of games I really love. I think the only I also I replayed through Portal 2 for like the third time this year. Like I replayed
Oh,
through
really?
I replayed
Well,
through like Valve games a lot, like Half Life and
yeah,
Portal a
because like with
lot.
story-based games, like I normally like try like when I actually do play games, I normally like try and play newer games. Obviously, like I have my core games I play.
Mm.
But even outside of that though, like I have like games like I want to play new story games, but sometimes there's like a hanker for the really good old game that I want to play again. Like Dragon Age Origins is like a good example for that for me.
Yeah, I started playing. See, that's a game where I started playing it, but I never finished it, sort of thing. So I would like to go
Right,
back and
right. And
actually play through that.
I've never played the big
Tony,
story expansion for Dragon Age
Daniel
Origins.
love to see the
Oh,
pipe puzzles.
pipes.
So many people hate this minigame, but I'm one of the
Yeah.
few people who actually
No,
likes this
I
minigame.
like it. I like it.
I think
I don't.
for
Okay, I will say this. I don't
go on
understand the thing at the start where you have to like uncover it. I don't get that.
because it like the whole time you're uncovering tiles, the pipe starts moving, and the harder it gets, the faster it goes.
Right, so you just
I can see like there is real complaints from people from like some of the hard hacking puzzles. They just come down to the pipe moves really fast, but if you don't immediately uncover and move the pipe in a direction randomly, then it will immediately become impossible to finish the hack, and
right.
it's almost like completely chance which way you go. So you'll just have to
Yeah.
spam it. Like I understand people like the hard hacking puzzles, like
Yeah, it's not
they're
balanced
sort of
for
like
hard. I
all
can understand
RNG
that.
sort of thing. I do agree with people that's kind of fun, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like the general idea. I do.
Yeah.
I
I give
think
it that.
so. I'm going to talk about like Bioshock One and Bioshock Two. I have footage, but I'll kind of talk about the overview of them because I've played Bioshock One through years ago. Absolutely loved it. Played Bioshock Two. I remember really loving Bioshock Two, and then I replayed them, and then I think my opinions of the games have actually changed based on replaying them, which is sort of interesting because that's something I didn't expect to encounter. Like playing
Probably.
them from this perspective now, I think if you asked me before I replayed these, which is my favourite
Yeah.
Bioshock game, Bioshock 1 or 2, I would have said Bioshock 2.
I
Because I think,
remember the time people were saying like I think after the dust has settled a bit, people went actually I think I prefer one.
if you ask me now, I would say I much prefer Bioshock 1. And
Much prefer. Okay.
yeah, and I'll sort of go into like some of the strengths of Bioshock 1. Um, the story, I think obviously the story of Bioshock 1 is just a lot better than Bioshock 2. I am probably going to be going into spoilers for Bioshock 1. This is God, it's almost like a 15-year-old game at this point.
And I still haven't played it.
Right. I don't know. What do you want to do, Tony?
Well,
Because I.
don't worry about it. Like I've got a forgetting machine. I'll just use
Because
that.
I've like. Yeah, I've played this game twice, so I sort of want to go over
Right.
one of the big beats of the story. Because it completely
Okay.
changed how I saw the game after I played it the second time. Um,
Right. Don't spoil that then.
oh, but that's
It's
exactly what I want to talk about in relation to the
okay.
game.
Okay.
You can deafen yourself and
No,
then
no. It's fine. I don't know. I don't know. I'm really debating in my mind because like I can't because like the Sixth Sense film, right?
yeah.
I knew the twists before watching it. So I
Yeah,
can never watch it like the true first
yeah,
one.
exactly. I think that's
I
like,
I'm
but I
really
feel
scared of
like,
missing out again. But at the same time, thinking back on Sixth Sense, like, have I actually missed out on very much, or
I
just the
mean,
idea of it?
yeah, I know what happens in the like twist in the Sixth Sense, and I've never seen it. So, but the thing is, it's like
Right.
Bioshock's almost at that point where it's so ingrained in pop
Yeah,
culture, where I
that's what
feel
I'm
like
thinking.
everyone knows the twist of Bioshock One. Like
All right.
it's
Well, okay. Well, okay. Okay. I'll ask this question then. I'll ask this
yeah,
question, before we get to it.
yeah,
So you've obviously played it for the first time, not knowing this twist. Like,
yeah.
how different is it playing the game not knowing the twist compared to knowing the twist?
It's definitely Yeah, I wouldn't
Is it
want.
big? No, no, is it like big different? Is it like, oh, holy shit different, or is
Holy
it
shit, different. I would say. Yeah.
okay? Okay,
But it's
well,
sort. But
maybe I
it's
might actually
it's a
suggest
sort.
it
But
this
the thing
time.
is, I can't. It was mind blowing at the time, but I feel like now it's become such a trope that you probably wouldn't have the same impact that it has on me now.
Okay.
At the time, it was like I don't think any
Uh,
game had done something like
I'm
this.
so torn.
Yeah, it's fine. I won't. I will. I will talk about the story at the last like 5 minutes, and you can
Okay,
deafen.
okay. Now just
And I'll just for the viewer,
I'll peace
just for
out
the viewer,
before
and
then.
I will message you
Yeah.
when it's safe to come out
Okay,
because
okay.
I really want to talk about the story, and it's almost 15
Yeah.
years old. So, like for the people, maybe you can timestamp spoilers, and then
Yeah, yeah. I'll like as I leave, I'll like timestamp the spoilers, and then I'll come
because
back in
I
and
feel like there's a
yeah.
point in game history where you know you need to. I've played this game twice, in the past 15 years, and I need to give like the holistic like how
Yeah,
my
yeah.
perception of the game's completely changed based on playing it for the first time and then replaying it. I love
Yeah.
Bioshock 1. I think Bioshock 1 is really fucking good, and Bioshock 1 is also really fucking hard. So, that being said, I'm playing on the highest difficulty possible. This is survivor difficulty. And to put
Okay.
that into perspective, Bioshock 2 only goes up to hard difficulty. They got rid of the survivor difficulty. Whereas the start of Bioshock 1 Survivor is really fucking hard. Like, you will have to scavenge for ammo and money and stuff, and I really enjoyed that sort of thing. It sort of reminded me of
Wait,
this.
is that the one you have to like unlock like save points and like re coming out of like the test? I can't remember like what any of the
No.
stuff's called, but is that like the other one? Okay, that's not. Oh, that the money one I'm thinking of.
What?
Isn't there one where like you need to like
Uh,
maintain amount of money so if
no,
you
that's
die?
Bioshock Infinite. That's the much later
Okay, right,
sequel
right.
that you're thinking of.
Okay,
And we'll talk about
right,
that.
right. And that's
So,
not in the other one.
no, so
Okay.
sort of there's these things called bathyspheres in Bioshock, and every time you die in Bioshock, the bathyspheres bring you back to life. So it
Yeah.
almost doesn't matter if you die in Bioshock, but when you do die, you sort of lose position and you sort of have to like go back through enemies, sort of thing. So dying
Yeah.
is still punishing in Bioshock, but it's not the end. You don't have to like, oh shit, I've got to reload a checkpoint, sort of thing. I died a lot on survivor difficulty, and on Bioshock 2, I was like, because I thought it was a lot easier, I decided to do an achievement challenge called Big Brass Balls, where
Right.
there's a specific achievement for completing the game without using a bathysphere, which I found was like a nice challenge for having played in the survivor
That's very
difficulty.
difficult.
So I just straight, I love immersive sims.
Hmm.
I know you have mixed feelings on the term, but like the way it encompasses like so many themes
I don't
and
play
like
that many, but I like what I've seen of like the idea of it. I guess like
the thing
the
with like
principle.
immersive sims is that it's an incredibly hard genre for like a newcomer to get into.
Yes.
Because I was watching the recent Prey documentary from No Clip, and they were saying like Prey 2017 was such a divisive game because it just gives you so many options and systems to play the way you want to play, but to like a new player that is so
Yeah,
confusing.
I saw so many new players at the time like choose like really
And I
bad
felt like a lot of people
systems.
really hated the game because they didn't understand a lot about it. But I feel like that's sort
Yeah,
of a. It's sort of like playing Bioshock, the original Bioshock and Survive difficulty. I came back to that point of, oh my god, I have no idea what I'm doing anymore because I played this when I was a kid. I probably played it on like the easy, the medium difficulty, or something. So I just kind of
yeah,
blasted
yeah.
through it. I didn't really care about infinite bathysphere spawns and that sort of stuff. But now replaying it, I'm like, I have a much better understanding of like the game. I'm constantly that's something you have to use on the high difficulties. There is alternate ammo for all the guns, so there is. This is what I'm talking about the advanced system. So like the pistol will have normal rounds, but then you also have armor piercing rounds, which you need to use against armored enemies such as big daddies, or
Right.
there'll be anti-personnel rounds, which are really impactful against human opponents like splicers, and especially, and then there's specific splicers that are specifically weak to those anti-personnel rounds, like the spider slicers and stuff like that. And then also throughout the game, you also get access to a camera, and you can take photos of the enemies you fight, and then you can gain research bonuses against them, which will tell you their weaknesses, but also it will give you like research to it won't it'll give you more information on them. It'll make you stronger against them, and it'll give you like unique perks. Like you can eventually turn spider splicers organs into like first aid kits if you research them enough.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah.
But like playing on the survive difficulty, you physically have to get ammo for your camera. So like your camera's also a resource. You're not just infinitely taking photos of people. Like you have to pick and choose when to take a photo, and also photos have they have grades on them. Better photos give you more research bonuses, and there's also specific
Right.
traits that make it so you can get better research bonuses. And this is where I'm talking about how there's levels and levels of systems in immersive sims where at first you're like, oh, this is pretty easy to understand, but then you start stacking systems on top of systems, and I think like the average gamer is going to start to get
Combination of
confused.
systems.
But
Yeah.
like it's that sort of thing where once you understand it, it just clicks, and it's beautiful. It's amazing.
Because to me, that's kind of how to explain like 4X games. To be honest with you, like it's like obviously a completely different game, but it's like lots of individual mechanics that like you can get your
It's too
grasp of,
early
but
for Minerva's done.
it's too early. It's too early. It's like lots of like little mechanic or lots of medium to little mechanics that are like if there was just a game in it by itself, like you could like understand. But there's when it then all comes together, it's like very difficult. But then once you understand it, it's like, oh, I want more. I want more
Mm.
systems.
So yeah, I'll quickly go over the. So I played the remastered versions because I was looking into playing because I wanted to replay them as soon as the remastered versions came out because it was an excuse to play some of my favorite games again. And
Yeah,
I was researching
very
into the
good excuse.
remastered version because I knew there was some mixed opinions on them. So
Right.
with the remastered versions, I think the Bioshock One is pretty much pretty much just on par with the original version sort of thing, like in terms of it doesn't take away anything from the experience other than maybe some audio sync issue, like not audio but like the actual volume sliders are a bit buggy in the remastered version of Bioshock 1, but
Right.
when you with the remaster you do get full controller support, higher resolution textures up to 4K, better models and interfacing, access to achievements, director's commentary and challenge rooms, and you also get like if you want, there's a specific DLC for Bioshock 1 that is, I think it was exclusive to the PS3 version, so the only way to play it on the PC is through the original remastered version on PC, whereas the Bioshock 2 remaster is like a really buggy version of the game, and I personally had a lot of crashes on it. But there is reasons to use the Bioshock 2 remaster over the original, which I'll get into when I talk about Bioshock 2, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, but Bioshock, there's so many systems like even like choosing the plasmids you want to use. Like I'm a big electric shock user. I think everyone's a big electric shock user when it comes to the beginning because it's a very easy plasmid to use. It's the 1-2 punch, as they say. You get to immediately stun an enemy, and then you can come up and hit them with a counter attack. And it's very useful if you're in water. But then that's a big thing about immersive sims is being able to use the environment to your
Yeah,
in order
yeah.
to play the game right. So
and
if you have
get
a
like
big pool of water, you want to zap everyone, but then you may get into a point where you're stood in the water and you don't want to zap yourself, sort of thing. So you might need to use a different ability. And there's stuff like ice, for example, is really good because you can immediately freeze an enemy and they're completely frozen, right? And then if you deal enough damage to them while they're frozen, they'll shatter. And it's a very quick way to kill a really tough enemy. But the really interesting thing about the ice power-up is if you shatter an enemy, they don't drop any loot.
Oh, okay.
So like I barely used it at all. Like in most times because I was scavenging a lot and I took a lot of scavenger perks.
Yeah.
But that's like a really interesting like difference between all the plasmids. I think Bioshock 1 shows its age a lot when it comes to gameplay. I think overall it has the stronger story. I think it has the better like difficulty. But like when it comes to in Bioshock 1, you can only wield one weapon at a time and one plasmid at a time. So you have to switch between using a gun and using a plasmid, and I feel like people got really used to, in Bioshock 2 you deal with plasmids and it just feels a lot better to be able to hold plasmids.
Equivalent of plasmids?
They're called like tonics or something. You take like salt or something to use it.
They're kind of similar like idea though, rather than like
There's like they're called vigors, I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
There's a lot.
You can like dual wield, like not dual wield, you can like build a weapon and like the
so that was introduced in Bioshock 2, and I think a lot of people like when they go back and they think about Bioshock 1, they think, oh, the Bioshock 2 improvements in gameplay.
Is that those
they existed. Yeah, so like Halo 2 added dual wielding to the Halo franchise, and like
everyone just remembered it in Halo 1.
Yeah, but you go back and play it now, and you're like, oh shit, there's no dual wielding in Halo 1, sort of thing. There's a lot of like quality of life improvements, I would say, in Bioshock 2 over 1. So I think like in terms of like ease of gameplay, I think it's a lot better. What else did I want to say about Bioshock 1? Because I had a lot of fun. I feel like in the beginning it's really tough, and then I feel like as you start to get into it and you start like researching and taking photos and stuff, I feel like the difficulty level goes down as you become like get more weapons and stuff. Fighting a Big Daddy for the first time playing on survival difficulty was really freaking hard. That was really like every time I had to face a Big Daddy, I was like, shit, I need grenades, I need armor piercing rounds, I need like a lot of setup just to take out a Big Daddy. What else do I think I need to talk about the story now because
is this where I need to leave or
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
If you want a timestamp now, I'll just
all right. Timestamp down. I'll see you in a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, if you just want to deafen. Okay, so the story of Bioshock, basically everyone knows at this point. That if you don't know, obviously spoilers. The twist of Bioshock is that you're actually a ace in the hole. You are a genetically modified human that's been sent to Rapture in order to take out Andrew Ryan, and you are made by Frank Fontaine, who's pretending to be Atlas, and the whole time Atlas is talking to you, he is saying, would you kindly, and then you go, oh god, would you kindly is, the sleeper phase where I'm being genetically mind controlled, and it's in your face the entire time. I think that was the big thing as well, was you kind of know it. Even looking at the arms of your character Jack, there's like chains on your arms, and obviously the entire time you hear this guy saying would you kind, and you're just like, yeah, he's just a nice Irish guy sort of thing, but then when it's revealed to you about 2/3 of the way through the game, that's the big mindfuck, and then you eventually kill Andrew Ryan, and then you're like, oh shit, this is the climax of the game. One of the things I didn't realize was like there's a whole nother third of the game after that point. Like, there's a lot of game behind the Andrew Ryan thing, and it's almost strange to keep playing after that point, because I feel like that was almost the climax of the game, and then everything after Andrew Ryan stuff is sort of like it just feels kind of weird. Like, it feels like Andrew Ryan was like the main antagonist, and then it was like, oh, Frank Fontaine's now the main bad guy. Let's go and fight him. Like it almost feels like it deflates. Like I think I saw some like talk with the director of Bioshock, and he said, yeah, I think that was our biggest mistake with the original Bioshock was we shouldn't have made it so you just you kill Andrew Ryan in the middle, and then that should have been like the climax of the game sort of thing. Like that was our big mistake. That there was another like third of the game left at that point. And yeah, and I think like in terms of like story and stuff, I think I did a good ending. So I didn't harvest a single little sister. It just feels weird, man. Like if you're gonna be harvesting little sisters, it's just like that was one of the things I saw in the developers commentary was like because there's museums at the end where you can see like developer commentary and that sort of stuff where they said we needed a way to make the player feel bad about their actions about whether they were going to harvest this creature or not because originally the the little I guess I can call Tony back in now. I went good ending. I think there's only really a good and a bad ending, whereas like Bioshock 2 has like 6 endings sort of thing. I'll just message Tony and get him back for the rest of the talk. Hello? I've sent him a message. Okay. He's probably gone for a walkabout or something. I'll just keep talking. Yeah, so they originally said that they were going to like make it so that you would the original harvesters were just going to be sort of like slugs, and the problem was there was no like reaction from the player when they kill these things. Nobody cares about killing like a slug sort of thing, right? And then so they just kept changing what the little sisters were until they had an emotional reaction from the player. So it was one of the jokes was that they had to make it a dog in a wheelchair until players felt bad about like harvesting the little sisters sort of thing. Right. Are you back?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
No, okay. RTX voice did me dirty again. I had to restart it.
Okay. I was losing it. I'm like, Tony's just gone for a walkabout in the middle of the recording.
Yeah. No, it took that time. Okay, it took a long time to quit. So I think it might have crashed.
I was just talking about the little sisters in Bioshock and how like they got like such a strong emotional reaction from the player when you had to come to harvesting them, sort of thing. I think that was one of the big things they did in Bioshock. And if you look into like the developers' commentary and stuff, they were originally like slugs, and there was no emotional reaction from the player. And the joke was that they had to be a dog in a wheelchair until the player felt bad about harvesting them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
someone should actually do that.
So I'll talk about I know I've been talking about Bioshock 1 and stuff for a long time now. So I'll just finally talk about the DLC that comes with the Bioshock collection. So I didn't know Bioshock 1 had DLC. It doesn't really have like DLC on the level of Bioshock 2, but there is basically the PS3 exclusive DLC, and I think it's really fucking good. I'll just pull it up now. Bioshock 1.
I really hate exclusives, like, especially when it's like a story-based thing. Like, it just rubs me the wrong way every time.
Yeah.
Like, you want to play like they shouldn't be punished for like choosing the wrong like console, the wrong system to play it on. That's kind of my opinion.
It's sort of a shame because I think like the Bioshock 1 DLC is really good and it's really like interesting in a way that just like a normal room just with more enemies to kill in it isn't. There's actually like stuff that's sort of unique gameplay that you don't normally get in a Bioshock game. So there's 3 challenge rooms. One's called the Iron Team. So it's a challenge room that takes the player to the Rapture firing range where they have to figure out a way to defeat a big daddy without any weapons or offensive plasmids. So you basically spawn with nothing. You have no weapons and you have no plasmids, and you have to figure out a way to kill a big daddy without just killing the big daddy. And it's sort of like a puzzle room but it's forcing you to use like the environmental systems and the defensive plasma systems that have been built into Bioshock.
Right.
And it's really good.
So you have to solve things creatively instead of
it's like a little puzzle thing. And I've never played it before, and I feel like nobody knows it exists because it was exclusive to the PS3 version as DLC, and then now exclusive to the collection.
Xbox 360s well oversold the PS3, like in that era. So less people would have played it.
And there's also another one called A Shocking Turn of Events, where these are all like they're all set up as like Sander Cohen sort of challenges, where he wants you to do these things. Like there's a little sister stuck at the top of a Ferris wheel, and the Ferris wheel is stuck and you're trying to get it down. But to get it down, you need to send an electrical current through this control 6 times in order to turn the Ferris wheel 6 times. So you have to keep trying to find ways to electrocute yourself 6 times in order to send this. And it's so interesting how there's like 6 different ways to electrocute yourself, or like send an electrical pulse but they're all ways you like know and then ingrained into your mind through playing through the game, realizing there's actually like, for example, there's actually like a gene tonic that allows me, if I get hit by an enemy, to send an electrical pulse. So if I let this splicer run up and attack me, I can actually send an electrical pulse and turn the Ferris wheel around. Like these little puzzles are really, really interesting, cool. And I think it's a shame that almost no one's played them. They're really good, and there's even, as I was talking about, the challenge mode called World of Hurt, which, as I said, I'm not someone who's big into like just combat challenges sort of thing, but it's really interesting because it's sort of like a roguelite World of Hurt. There's no bathysphere in it, so when you die and you have to start again, and basically you start with no money, and there's a bunch of rooms full of enemies. So there's a room full of security bots, there's a room with a big daddy in it, there's a room full of Houdini spices, and so you have to go through these rooms, and then you have to like build up your character to face that specific room you want to go in, and you change your build based on which room you're going into, and it's really interesting. And this is the sort of stuff I was like, man, I wish I'd known about this stuff earlier, because I didn't even know most of this stuff existed, and it's really good, and I think it's underappreciated in Bioshock 1. So
I've never heard anyone talk about it.
Yeah, so I'd say like if you plan on replaying through Bioshock, make sure you check out the bonus content in Bioshock 1, the INT is Shocking Turn Events of World of Hurts, and even there's even Tony, basically a Bioshock museum similar to like the Insomniac museums, where they show you like this is where I got the information about the little sisters and like the cut content. Like, did you know, like originally the little sisters were just going to be slugs, or like the splicers weren't even going to be humanoids. They were going to be like these huge hulking creatures, and they were like, well, we kind of prefer the design where they look like more like humans, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's more creepy when it looks like humans, I would say.
I've been talking about this.
It's like Bioshock, like in the era of when Bioshock came out. Like I feel like I want to say that like DLC wasn't like as not well known, but like not well downloaded. I would say. Like
Bioshock came out 2007, and DLC wasn't a huge thing back then. It was more of like originally you would have expansions, and
like you'd buy you'd go and buy like a physical like expansion to like another game if it was like that big.
I remember
Infamous. Like I've never I think there's like DLC for Infamous. Like I don't think I even bought it. Like I never played it. Like it didn't even like occur to me that it had extra content you could get.
But yeah, does Bioshock 1 hold up? Yeah, you're gonna have a rough time with like the weapon switching and having to deal with how many different plasmids and weapons you have, but it's still definitely worth playing for like. If you've never played Bioshock, I'd still recommend playing it. And for Bioshock 1, I would play the remaster.
From what I was just seeing, well, I say just seeing, what I saw like earlier, like I feel like the rooms and like the enemies themselves, like I think actually like hold up more than like some current games where like they just have really boring enemy design. Like there's actually some like really interesting rooms.
Bioshock 2. What Bioshock 2 did right? Obviously, the ability to dual wield stuff. Much
You're
better.
You're a daddy in this, right? I'm not.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a reason I have a giant drill on my arm. Yes.
Yeah.
So in Bioshock 2, you play as a beta series. I don't think it's not alpha. There's an alpha series Big Daddy, or beta series Big Daddy basically, and these are the Big Daddies before they were like fully turned into these big hulking creatures. There's tons of Bioshock lore, and I know like quite a bit about it now, but basically, the Big Daddies were basically like the drillers of Rapture. They sort of discovered Rapture and built a lot of the foundations, and then they were given like these abilities to they're given these plasmid abilities, but then Andrew Ryan became very paranoid of them, and he sort of like hypnotized them and turned them into these big like hulking obedient creatures, and they created these big like psychological bonds between the little sister and the Big Daddy, where they have like this. This is quite important because this is like massively explored in Bioshock 2, because at the start of Bioshock 2 you learn that basically you're a Big Daddy that was bonded with a little girl who's not your biological daughter, but you almost have like a father-daughter relationship with her because of this like conditioning bond you've been given to her, where you sort of see each other as father and daughter sort of thing, even though you're not biologically related sort of thing. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. But then it turns out like this is right at the start of the game. The girl that you were bonded with, she's the daughter of Eleanor Lamb, she was like Andrew Ryan's biggest adversary in Rapture, and she's sort of taken over after the events of Bioshock 1.
Right.
Yeah. So the other story of Bioshock 1 is you're trying to reconnect with your little sister after you were put to sleep sort of thing, and you've just woken up. And this introduces the new enemy, the Big Sister, which is basically like... There is Big Daddies in this, which you fight as well, because that's one of the big differences between the way you get Adam in this game. Is in Bioshock 1 it is you kill a Big Daddy and then you steal his little sister, and you either save them with Tenenbaum's serum, or you harvest them for more Adam. It's always better to save them, almost always though, because little sisters leave you presents when you save enough. So even if you do want to save them, you won't get punished too much for doing so. As I know, originally they wanted to make it so if you chose not to harvest the little sister, you would get nothing. So it would be like a huge choice. If you didn't harvest this little girl, then you were going to be like massively punished. And then I think it was 2K was just like, no, you can't do this. We won't publish this video game if you do that. You have to give them something for choosing not to like kill the little girl. That's another thing. Like Bioshock 1 is so fucking dark. There's literally multiple dead children in Bioshock 1. Like it's really dark. Like I forgot how dark it was like for a game at the time. And then like
I think even for a game now it's still quite dark. I feel like there are more dark games now, like, obviously, like more adult. Like,
and then like
games,
for some reason, instead of children in Bioshock 2, it's cats. I feel like there's at least 10 dead cats in Bioshock. Everywhere you go, you'll see a dead cat, and I don't know why they just keep putting dead cats everywhere. There was a dead cat in Bioshock 1, and it was like 1, and it was like, oh, that's kind of sad. But I feel like some guy in Bioshock 2 was going to be like, okay, let's turn this up to 11. Also, another thing I want to talk about. I remember Bioshock 1 you would look out the window and it's like, oh my god, I'm underwater. It's so fucking cool. Now I look at it on the remaster and I'm like, it's looking kind of rough. You look out the window and you can see this like JPEG image map painting. You're like, oh, it's looking a little bit rough now. After I'm saying it after I'm saying it after 15 years now, it's kind of a little rough on the eyes. But
well, you also know how like some of the tricks as well, so you kind of like have an eye for it.
Yeah. But at the time, I was convinced it was like I was actually underwater. It was fucking groundbreaking stuff. But yeah, Bioshock 2. Mechanically, I think a lot better in terms of Bioshock 2 at the beginning is way easier on the higher difficulties than Bioshock 1. As I said before, there's no survivor difficulty, so I chose to do the I think Big Brass Balls is the name of the achievement you get for completing without using Bastia, which I got. I think Bioshock 2 does get a lot harder in the middle and towards the end, Whereas Bioshock 1's really hard at the beginning and then gets slightly easier as you get more powerful. I think Bioshock 2 eases you in a lot more and then ramps it up a bit. I think I think the weapons are really cool on Bioshock, like the way they use the rivet gun and the drill and stuff. Whereas I felt like there was like the crossbow. I don't know what it is, but I always found the crossbow just not useful in a lot of like immersive sim games. Like, I didn't find it useful in Bioshock 1.
I don't think you're alone.
Then the crossbow gets turned into the spear gun in Bioshock 2. I didn't find it useful. I didn't really find it that useful in Bioshock 2. I got a new appreciation for it though in the DLC, which I'll go into, where I think it's actually a really good gun after I played that. But that's sort of interesting to talk about, like the differences between Bioshock 2 and the main game DLC. I like how in Prey 2017, I think, I don't know if it's a nod to like what people thought of like the random crossbows in immersive sim games, but like in Prey, the crossbow is literally a Nerf gun that you use to push buttons. That's what it's for. It's not even a weapon anymore. It's just like a Nerf gun that you use to push buttons.
I agree with that though, because I don't like crossbow just seems silly to me in Age of Guns, you know.
Yeah, it's a bit strange.
I don't get it. It's either like isn't like overpowered in something like, I know like Far Cry isn't like an immersive sim, but like in games that have crossbows, it's either underpowered or overpowered. Like it's never like has its own.
So let's go back. So in Bioshock 1, you have to harvest the little sisters. In this game, the relationship between the big daddy and the little sister, you have to basically go and kill the little sister's big daddy, and then immediately after you kill their big daddy, they're not just like on the floor crying. They're like, oh, a new big daddy, and then you take them over and protect them, and then they sense bodies that have Adam on them, and then basically there's a mini game where you have to defend them from getting attacked by splicers while they harvest the Adam, and then once you've done that and harvested the Adam, then you can choose whether you want to harvest the little sister or free her when Tenenbaum's back again. She's saving more little sisters with the serum. Basically, Tenenbaum realised that the conditioning that they did on the big daddies and the little sisters to turn them into monsters could be undone, and that plasmids were destroying people, and that's a big theme throughout like the Bioshock games. Like you can go into you can go into a lot of like, there's a lot of like books that the creators of Bioshock were reading at the time. Like there's a lot of like intense like philosophical stuff that goes into the Bioshock games, and each one has its own thing. But obviously, I've not done the reading to talk about that. So if you're interested in that, you'll have to read into it a lot more. What was I saying? I've forgotten now.
Wait, there's an arrow on the screen. Hang on, that's a patented. Wait, hang on.
There's an arrow on the screen on both games, and I kind of wish
that's a patented thing though. What's going on?
No. Maybe maybe Sega owned the patent from Crazy Taxi. Maybe they paid the fee to use it. That's what they do a lot of the time.
Maybe the only game that did.
Like the Xbox Elite controller paid the patent fee to Corsair to use the patent for the back buttons.
Maybe that's what they did.
I think like Bioshock 2 feels like Bioshock 1 with a budget. It feels like there was so much more resources put into this. Like
I remember like a massive marketing push for this game as well.
It feels like this game is way more cinematic. I think the areas you explore are way more like detailed. There's much more atmosphere in this game.
Is this game shorter than 1?
I'd say they're similar lengths. Let me check.
Okay. I remember people complaining saying it was like shorter, but then like I could never confirm that from like
I have 20 hours in both. I have 20 hours in both remasters. So
right, okay.
But I did play the DLCs for both of them as well. So I'm not. And I think, but I think
that's still a good indicator though. I still think that like kind of shows it's similar.
I'd say they're probably about similar length. I don't think one's particularly longer than the other, to be fair with you. But I was playing on a hardest difficulty.
Maybe on like easier difficulties. Maybe it was like really hard in the first game, so it felt longer for them. Then they played the second game, and it was better pace and better.
Let me talk about
shorter.
the Bioshock 2 remaster and the original. So the Bioshock 2 remaster is not great. So I was looking into this because I was like, I heard the Bioshock 2 remaster wasn't very good. So here's the pros and cons of the Bioshock 2 remaster. Pros. It's 4K, so it's slightly improved visuals, although Bioshock 2 original does hold up.
Yeah, because it's a newer game, right? When did it come out? Like 2009.
I think it came out like shortly after the first one, but it wasn't. Pro/con, but I don't know if you know this. I've talked about this before, but I don't know if I've told you. Bioshock 2 had multiplayer.
No. I did actually remember that because like it was in the time of like everything had like.
I played the Bioshock 2 multiplayer. I just thought it was pretty alright for what it was. It's just nobody plays it now, obviously.
It was interesting. I
remember the elephant gun being OP. I don't think the elephant gun exists in the actual. Yeah, the elephant gun just doesn't exist in the actual non-multiplayer. There's like a story in the Bioshock 2 multiplayer that nobody knows about, sort of thing. There's like actual like story stuff in there that probably no one's seen.
Does each map have its own story? Does it?
Well, it's sort of like the intro to like it's sort of set in the civil war between like Atlas and Andrew Ryan sort of thing, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so the multiplayer.
Then?
Well, nobody really plays it. It's sort of
No, but you could have like I think people would have played it if you brought it back in like a remastered edition, surely.
Well, if people aren't playing in its current state and people think the remaster is worse than the original,
I guess okay. The remaster could have been good though.
Yeah, true. But I honestly don't. From my perspective, there wasn't that many people playing it back in the day when I was playing it.
No, well, no one really wanted it. Like people thought like it was like a.
So like if there's not people playing it back then, I doubt it's going to get some crazy resurgence sort of thing. There's way more.
Make it see playable.
As another thing, they were really flexing with the underwater tech in Bioshock 2. In Bioshock 1, you barely go outside ever. In Bioshock 2, you're always going. They're like, fuck, we need to increase. That's another thing. They're increasing the budget. Like, let's make you go outside all the time. Let's make you like. They were really trying to be cinematic, and like it felt like there was a lot more budget put into Bioshock 2.
I thought like the rooms were more.
I'm getting distracted. So positive pro and con. It also means that if you're a 100% achievement collector for Bioshock 2, you'll probably prefer to play the Bioshock 2 version because that means the multiplayer achievements are removed from Bioshock 2 Remaster, so you won't have to get all the multiplayer achievements from the multiplayer mode that really nobody plays anymore. I think there's all of the DLC is included in the Bioshock 2 Remaster, which you get for free if you had Bioshock, if you're an original Bioshock 2 owner on Steam. So you don't have to buy the Minerva's Den DLC if you've got the remaster, so that's a pro.
That's pretty good.
But I think those are the main things. It's mostly... And that's cons. This crashes. Whenever you... I like the remote hack. As a big hacker, I like the fact that you get like a remote hack tool in the second game. And I do like the new hacking minigame. It's not pipes with water going through them, but it's probably more appropriate for what people wanted. It's sort of just a needle where you have to like press it on time, sort of thing. And then there's a blue one. And if you hit the blue one, you get a bonus thing from what you're hacking. And then if you hit the red one, it sets off security alarms. I found the game worked. I was quick saving like a motherfucker throughout number 2. Because I found that the game it sort of didn't crash, but the game always like crashed every time for me when I would start the Little Sister Harvest event. So it seems like there's some sort of memory issue with Bioshock 2 Remaster where if there's a lot of enemies on the screen at once, it can't handle it and it'll just crash to desktop. And for me, like Little Sister events, they basically, when you're defending a Little Sister, a bunch of splices all get spawned in the same place and they'll start rushing at you. So if you set off a load of traps and there's a bunch of splices running up to them and setting them off, that's when the game's going to crash, sort of thing.
Right. Is it like trying to like spawn everything in like the same like clock cycle? So
like,
no memory for that crash.
Yeah, I don't. So my advice is, if you want to play the remaster, because you're like, con of remaster, they had to remove 3 songs from the soundtrack, and that's another big thing about Bioshock 2 was the soundtrack is much more like in your face in Bioshock 2. Like, there's memorable songs in Bioshock 2, where I say in Bioshock 1 it's sort of like almost ambient music,
Yeah.
other than like, somewhere
There's
beyond
actual
the sea.
scores into them.
Yeah, there's radios all over the world playing songs of the era sort of thing,
Right.
where it feels a much more like a Fallout game where it's like, oh, there's these really cool classic songs on the radio sort of thing. Whereas one was
From what I'm saying, like it looks like like a better Fallout. I don't know, maybe not better. Like, it's a completely different game. Like it reminds me a lot of like in terms of like a lot of Fallout ideas in terms of like everything's gone to shit.
yeah. Well, this came out like not even that far away from like Fallout sort of thing. Fallout
Yeah.
3, obviously the rebirth
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Fallout with the radio thing.
So do
Yeah,
you
so
think it was influenced by
Fallout
3 then?
Fallout 3 came out a year after the original Bioshock.
Right.
Bioshock 2 came out in 2010, so it was actually
Oh, 10.
2 years after the original. So you can
Yeah.
see like they have more budget, they have more technological resources for 2. Yeah, let me think if there's anything else I want to talk about for 2, because I need to talk about the DLC. I forgot. It's one thing I forgot. There's pyrovision in Bioshock 2, which I completely forgot about. There's a section right towards the end of Bioshock 2 where you get to play through the eyes of a little sister, and seeing the eyes from a little sister is basically little sisters. The way they see the world is everyone is happy and is angels and everything's comfy, pillow forts. And I'm like, oh my god. I completely forgot pyrovision was in the Bioshock 2. I do not remember this section at all. Little Sisters are like really interesting bosses, I would say, in Bioshock 2, because like basically there's sort of standard thing from Bioshock 1 is that there's usually about 3 little sisters per level, so you can use them to either get all of the Adam you need before you progress, or you can sort of like skip that challenge if you want to like preserve resources and stuff and move on.
Yeah.
And then the way it works in Bioshock 2 is as soon as you've either harvested or saved all the little sisters in the level, a big sister will come and attack you sort of thing. That's the way they do it.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Anything else I want to say about Bioshock 2? I think Bioshock 2 is definitely worth replaying. I think it's a good game. But I think if you had asked me in the past which one I prefer, I would have said Bioshock 2, because mechanically and like in terms of like mechanical gameplay, in terms of like the budget, in terms of like the atmosphere of the game, I think it's a lot better. But then I think Bioshock 1 that has the better story, I think I prefer the difficulty spikes, and I think like just the atmosphere of almost like no soundtrack sort of thing. Like,
also, like,
cinematic, I think Bioshock 2 is more cinematic, whereas Bioshock 1 sort of more atmosphere sort of thing.
Yeah, as I say, in terms of atmosphere, like aren't you like more powerful from the get go in 2, whereas 1 you're just like you can be scared of a big daddy in 1 where you can't really be in.
Yeah, well the thing is you are a big daddy.
Yeah, so I mean,
in 2, like you're
like
already
in
a lot
1,
more
the big daddy's a
powerful.
tank.
But then like once you get past the beginning of 2, it's sort of like splicers are almost more powerful than you, especially in groups, which is sort of like weird.
Yeah.
But I like Bioshock 2. So, I played Bioshock 1 in the DLC. I was surprised I never played the DLC. I like playing through Bioshock 2 again. I think definitely worth replaying through again. Interesting, father-daughter story, but obviously I preferred Bioshock 1 story. I also played the DLC for Bioshock 2 called Minerva's Den. I've never played this before, but that was one of the reasons I replayed it. Was I've heard Minerva's Den is really good, but I never got it. So I was like, okay, I want to try out this Minerva's Den and see what it's like. Holy shit, Minerva's Den is really, really fucking good, and I think I prefer it to Bioshock 2. I think Minerva's Den is almost a better Bioshock game than Bioshock 2 is.
Why is it? What's the deal with Bioshock DLC being really good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about Burial at Sea a lot when I talk about playing through Infinite again, which I do
Right.
plan on playing on 1999 mode, so I'm preparing mentally for that at the moment.
Right.
If you don't know, 1999 mode is basically hardcore mode.
It's not
For
long ago that you played the final DLC. It's like it wasn't. It was like 2 years ago.
when they came out, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I'll just Burial at Sea Part 2 release date. I'm someone who 2014 was when Burial at Sea Part 2 came out, so about
Oh, right.
7 years ago. Obviously, a big gap in time between 1 and a big gap between 4 years between 2 as well. So
Yeah.
interesting to see the differences.
It's been a long old while.
Minerva's Den is sort of the most immersive sim out of all of the Bioshock games. It actually, like, Bioshock 1 is incredibly linear. Bioshock 2, I would say, is even more linear. Whereas Minerva's Den is almost open-ended, and it's more like Prey 2017, where you can kind of decide where you want to go. Like, the big thing people don't remember about Bioshock 1 was it's designed in a way that makes you seem like you have choice, and you can choose where you want to go, but it's actually still a very linear game. But Minerva's Den, you can kind of find weapons in any order, and you can find plasmids and stuff in any order in this game, and it's sort of designed to work that way. And it's really interesting, the story of Minerva's Den. It's set inside sort of the first computers and sort of stuff. Like, the person who's talking to you on the radio is CM Porter, and he's basically, before he came to Ratchet, he was working with Alan Turing on the Enigma code and setting up the first computer in the world, sort of thing.
Right.
And so the idea is that he came to Rapture and he set up the world's first, with the advanced scientific technology, he set up the world's first artificial intelligence called the Thinker. And there's some weird stuff going on with this Thinker, and you're just like, what the hell's going on here, sort of thing. So that's sort of the premise of Minerva's Den. You're also playing as a Delta series, but you're a Big Daddy again, sort of thing, and you've just woken up and you don't know what the hell's happening, sort of thing. So similar to Bioshock, sort of thing. But I think there's the soundtrack for this was amazing. I think there's songs on the soundtracks for this DLC that are just in this DLC, and it's literally there's a song. It's called Old World Blues. It literally reminds me of the Fallout DLC Old World Blues. It has that exact vibe of blues music, technology in the past but also in the future. It's really good.
Retro futurism, I guess. But yeah, that is okay.
And I really like
the music from that period.
I really like the story for this one as well. I think most people don't know what the hell happens in Minerva's Den, so I won't spoil it, because I feel like you definitely could have not played Minerva's Den. I feel like a lot of people haven't played it.
Right. Again, it's one of those things I didn't realize that this had DLC either. So.
But there's again, as I was alluding to earlier, you get the spear gun at a specific point in the game, right? In Bioshock 2. And I feel like by that point, I'd already been given so many different guns, I barely used that gun. But I found the spear gun pretty early on in this one, and I found that it was super useful, because you can spear enemies to walls. If you headshot them, it's one hit kill sort of thing for splices, and then you can pick up the spears you hit splices with and reuse them, and that's sort of really useful in the beginning as a reusable weapon. The DLC's not crazy long. I think it's about 2 to 3 hours long, I would say. But what's there is really, really good. As you can see, you have these animatronic dolls. There's this whole math thing, and there's unique weapons to this DLC. So you get futuristic. You get a laser gun, sort of thing, an early laser gun prototype. There's another unique weapon to this one I'm trying to remember. Let me look it up on the wiki. Exclusive weapons. The ion laser, which is really freaking cool. There's an exclusive plasmid as well called Gravity Well, which basically creates like this little black hole in the room. All the splices in this are really cool because they're all scientists. Like in the normal game, they're all like fucked up on plasmids, and they're like just like wearing these weird like rabbit masks and stuff. But all of the enemies in this are like themed as like it's a place full of nerds. There's just a bunch of scientists that have gone crazy taking plasmids. Yeah. Like that's really cool. There is one more DLC for Bioshock 2 called Tenenbaum's Challenge or something. But they're basically like little gameplay challenges for Bioshock 2 where you have to protect little sisters and then you get attacked, similar to how it works in the game, called the Protector Trials. But I didn't play that, and I wasn't really interested in playing it because I looked at it and I was like, this is the ion laser. It's a pretty freaking cool gun. Cool. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And you get to fight again.
Like a vacuum tube looking laser thing.
Yeah, it's got that like old school futuristic tech.
Yeah.
That's what I will say.
Kind of like the I can't remember what the gun's called in Fallout now, but it's like one of those kind of stuff.
Oh, the fucking splicers in this are fucking terrifying in Bioshock 2 compared to how they looked in Bioshock 1. I was like, holy shit, they're terrifying in this game. They're like so deformed. Whereas in Bioshock 1, they're just like a reskin of the normal splicer, but with hooks. So the Protector Trials, basically, there are a bunch of trials where you have to protect little sisters like you do in the base game to get Adam. That's the whole thing. I wasn't interested in playing it, so I just didn't play it. But there is it came out before this DLC, and there is a unique tonic that you can get for this DLC if you complete the Protector Trials that gives you more Adam from protecting little sisters. But from playing through the game without it, you definitely don't need it. It's like if you want to skip the Protector Trials, you definitely can. And I would say, without playing the Protector Trials, I would say, this is one you definitely want to play. But for me, the idea of just playing through a bunch of missions where you protect little sisters isn't that interesting to me. Especially given that it crashes my game all the time. So
is there a story to that, or is it just...
I think there's, a small little story to... with Tenenbaum, but I think it's mostly just... It's mostly just gameplay in that one, from what I read.
Yeah.
Because I looked into playing it and see if people were like, should I play it sort of thing, and people were like, it's sort of like a little gameplay thing, whereas there's a heavy story in Minerva's Den and it's really fucking cool. I think Minerva's Den came out a year after Bioshock 2 as well, so there was a lot of development time put into this as well, it seems like, back when you would make DLCs after the game came out instead of developing them during the game.
Well, I'm afraid even during that time, though, some of the first DLC games were trying to split up the games on launch, unfortunately. It started very early. But yeah, there's a proper one there, where we've made the game, now we're going to make the DLC afterwards. Which is much better, because you actually spend time...
Oh, something really interesting to point out as well is that this DLC was updated in 2020 to include a brand new thing that the AI, the Thinker, prints out that links you to a website that's like a teaser for the supposed Bioshock 4. So that's pretty interesting.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So they did do a small little teaser update to Minerva's Den, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, is that confirmed now then with the next Bioshock?
No, it's not confirmed, but there's a
website.
There's a website you can go to now that's called There's Always a Lighthouse or something.
Who makes some of the Bioshock games?
Who makes them?
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
I guess who made them, because does it not exist anymore, or at least the lead left.
It is made by Irrational Games.
Okay.
I think Irrational Games still exists. I believe they're still
Didn't the
working on
lead
it.
like leave go do like smaller projects or something?
So look. I think it was rebranded. I think it was so it says on Wikipedia it was defunct 2017 and then rebranded to Ghost Story Games.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I
So
think
you remember like Toe Biscuit talking about like the lead developer like making their own little team or something.
So there was a tweet in 2019 announcing there'll be a new Bioshock in the works from the publisher 2K.
Right.
I know like Blind Squirrel Games did the remaster for the Bioshock games. Like, so Irrational made the games. Arcane Studios famously helped on Bioshock 2. And Blind Squirrel's like quite famous for doing remasters now. Like they made the they did like the recent Sonic Colors remaster. Like I think Blind Squirrel does quite a few. There's sort of a few like remake companies now.
Yeah, it's quite profitable at the moment, so makes sense.
But I think like the license holder on Bioshock is 2K, so I'm not 100% sure who's developing the new Bioshock 4.
Because if publisher holds it, they can get anyone to develop it, really.
Yeah.
Whereas if developer holds it, then it's unlikely. They might like license like a side game out or something, kind of like a Valve, but
I'm dead here.
No, it's just like it's one of the things. Like I feel like Bioshock is like a well like known game. Like I didn't really know like who the developer was.
The thing with Irrational Games is they kind of after Bioshock, I don't think they really did anything, sort of thing.
Yeah, Whereas like other developers of, like RPGs,
like they obviously they made System Shock.
Yep.
Then they did System Shock 2, and then they went on and did Bioshock as a spiritual successor, and then they did Bioshock 2 and then Bioshock Infinite in 2014 around that time, and then after that it was pretty much we didn't hear anything about Bioshock. So sort of what happened to the company. But I'm glad they didn't just go the route of like Assassin's Creed and release a new game every year or...
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think Bioshock games is something you want to just take a lot of time on, and that's what makes them really good, is they're like full realized worlds that have had a lot of time put into them.
It's kind of what you'd want from like a proper good Fallout game as well, when they've actually spent time realizing the world and the story.
But yeah, if I was at the moment, my ranking of Bioshock games goes Bioshock 1, Bioshock Minerva's Den, Bioshock 2. That's my ranking of Bioshock games. It's not really a game. I can't really...
Okay.
It's sort of like additional content, whereas I think Minerva's Den is actually like a full campaign sort of thing.
Okay.
But I haven't replayed through Infinite and the Barrel at Sea DLCs, but I remember like the Barrel at Sea DLC being one of my favorite Bioshock games, so we'll have to see if it holds up. But I'm someone who really liked Infinite. I thought it was like there was mixed opinions on Infinite based on the story and that sort of stuff. I'm glad I didn't wait to make this Tangerine to include Bioshock Infinite in its DLCs, because we've gone for over an hour now just talking about Bioshock 1 and 2 and the DLCs I didn't know exist, but I had a lot to say about them. So I need to end here before I go insane. Keep talking about it for another half an hour. So
yeah, the other games to talk about. Another Tangerine.
TLDR, Bioshock games worth replaying. I really enjoyed my replay, and if you haven't played the DLCs for 1 or 2, especially Minerva's Den, you're doing a disservice to yourself. It's really good.
Yeah. And like if you owned the original games, you had the remasters, right?
So you can choose I would recommend the Bioshock 1 remaster, and then if you care about achievements, I recommend the Bioshock 2 remaster. Other than that, I would say just play the original Bioshock 2.
Yeah,
it's the more stable version. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Tangerine, goodbye.
Bye.